The Chancellor realized that he had been ruling over billions of beings for 3,000 years without ever asking what they were good at or what they wanted to contribute. He had built an empire based on fear, but had never explored what it might become based on cooperation. "Admiral Stone," he said, turning back to the human communication screen, "what exactly are you proposing?" "A pilot program," she replied promptly. "Choose one system, maybe one that's been having administrative problems, and let us help you try cooperative governance. If it doesn't work better than the current system, you can go back to the old way. If it does work, you can expand the program, and in return, we get to keep our colonies and continue trading with our friends. Plus, we'd love to learn from your experience managing large-scale interstellar infrastructure. 3,000 years of empire building has to have taught you things we could use." Dr. Warren's voice added, "We're particularly interested in your transportation networks and resource distribution systems. They're remarkably efficient." The Chancellor found himself in the strangest situation of his very long life. The humans had just complemented his empire's logistics while simultaneously offering to help him reform it. They had faced his threats with concern for others rather than fear for themselves. They had responded to his ultimatum with a job application, an unexpected alliance. "General Vorth," the Chancellor said finally, "what is your assessment of the human fleet's military capabilities?" The general studied his tactical displays. "Minimal, my lord. Their ships are fast and well designed, but they couldn't fight off a single squadron of our fleet. And yet they came here to face us anyway." "Yes, my lord. Admiral Keektar, in your opinion, are the humans lying about their cooperative approach to governance?" The Admiral reviewed the intelligence reports. "No, my lord. Our observations of their colonies confirm their methods. They really do seem to run things through consensus and mutual benefit, and their offer to help optimize our empire is that a trick." "I don't believe so, my lord. The data they provided appears accurate, and their suggestions would genuinely benefit both our subjects and our efficiency." High Chancellor Zixtara stood silent for a long moment, processing information that challenged 3 millennia of assumptions about power, governance, and the nature of interstellar civilization. Finally, he opened the communication channel to the human fleet. "Admiral Stone, I have a proposal for you. We're listening, Your Magnificence. I will select 3 systems currently experiencing administrative difficulties. You and your team will work with our local governors to implement your cooperative methods. After 1 standard year, we will evaluate the results." "That sounds reasonable," Admiral Stone replied. "What happens if the experiment succeeds? Then we will expand it to additional systems and begin restructuring the Dominion's approach to governance. And if it fails, then you will withdraw your colonies to your home system as originally demanded." Admiral Stone nodded. "Agreed, but I'd like to add one condition." The Chancellor raised an eyebrow, which was an impressive feat considering he had 6 arms but no visible eyebrows. "Name it." "If the experiment succeeds, the Dominion agrees to establish formal diplomatic relations with humanity and our trade confederation partners. No more conquest of species that prefer cooperation to subjugation." The request was revolutionary. It would mean acknowledging that there were legitimate alternatives to Dominion rule, that not all expansion had to come through conquest. "Agreed," the Chancellor said, surprising everyone, including himself. The Galaxy Watcher's news of the agreement spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Stellar Dominion had negotiated rather than conquered. The psychological impact was immediate and far-reaching. On conquered worlds throughout the Empire, subject species began to hope that change might be possible. On independent worlds beyond Dominion space, governments started to believe that perhaps the great empire could be dealt with through diplomacy rather than fear. The human response went viral across the galactic networks for the second time in a week. This time, it wasn't Admiral Stone's diplomatic sarcasm that captured imaginations, but footage of High Chancellor Zixthera shaking hands with a human diplomat. The first time in recorded history that a Dominion Chancellor had touched an alien. In friendship rather than domination, the experiment began immediately. 3 troubled Dominion systems were selected. Rigel 7, where rebellion had been simmering for decades. Kepler 62, where economic output had been declining due to administrative inefficiency. And Gliese 581, where multiple species were struggling to work together under traditional conquest-based management. Human advisory teams, accompanied by volunteer Dominion officers who wanted to learn the new methods, arrived at each world. Instead of implementing human systems directly, they worked with local governments to develop hybrid approaches that combined Dominion organizational efficiency with cooperative decision-making. Dr. Warren established the Galactic Governance Institute, a research organization jointly funded by Earth and the Dominion to study optimal methods for managing multi-species civilizations. General Vorth, to everyone's surprise, requested assignment as the Institute's military liaison. Admiral Keektar began working directly with human fleet commanders to develop new approaches to space patrol that focused on protection and assistance rather than intimidation and enforcement. A new chapter 6 months after the confrontation that never happened. High Chancellor Zixthera received his first progress report on the experimental systems. The results were remarkable. Rigel 7, which had required constant military presence to prevent rebellion, was now peaceful and productive. The local species, given a voice in their own governance, had not only stopped resisting Dominion authority, but had begun contributing ideas for improving efficiency throughout the sector. Kepler 62's economic output had increased by 200%. The administrative restructuring had eliminated layers of bureaucracy while improving services to citizens. Most surprisingly, productivity had increased not because people were forced to work harder, but because they wanted to work harder. GLIESE-581 had become a showcase for interspecies cooperation. 3 different alien races that had been at each other's throats under the old system were now collaborating on joint projects that benefited everyone. My lord, Admiral Keektar reported, we're receiving requests from over 40 systems to participate in the cooperative governance program. The Chancellor reviewed the data with growing amazement. In 6 months, the humans had helped him accomplish more positive change than he had seen in. When Deathworlders answered the call, Admiral Vextar stood in the command center of his flagship, watching the tactical display with satisfaction. The Elvani system lay spread before his fleet like a ripe fruit waiting to be harvested. His scouts had confirmed that the silver-skinned weaklings had no defenses, no allies coming to their aid. Admiral, his communications officer hissed in their clicking language, "We are detecting new ship signatures entering the system. Configuration unknown." Vexter's compound eyes focused on the display. 17 small vessels had dropped out of hyperspace at the system's edge. They were moving in a tight formation directly toward his fleet. "Identification?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir. The ships do not match any known design in our databases. They appear to be ... primitive." Vextar clicked his mandibles in amusement. Some foolish species thinks to challenge the Scarith Empire. Open a communication channel. The face that appeared on his screen made Vextar pause. The creature looked soft and weak, with pale flesh and no visible armor. Its features were smooth, lacking the pronounced mandibles or claws that marked a proper warrior species. But its eyes held something that gave even Vextar pause. "Scarith vessel," the creature said in a calm voice. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Colonial Defense Force. You are in violation of interstellar law by threatening a peaceful civilian population. Withdraw from this system immediately." Vextar's warriors hissed with laughter throughout the bridge. "Human," he said, clicking his mandibles mockingly. "You bring 17 primitive vessels against the might of 43 Scarith warships. Retreat now, and we will allow you to live." Admiral Chen's expression didn't change. "Admiral Vextar, you have 1 minute to begin withdrawal. This is your only warning. Or what, soft flesh, you will destroy us." Vextar's laughter echoed through the bridge. "Your species are not even members of the galactic community. You are outcasts, primitives from a death world. What can you possibly do to us?" Chen smiled, and Vextar felt an unexpected chill. "We're about to show you what Deathworlders do to bullies." The transmission ended. Vextar stared at the blank screen for a moment, then turned to his tactical officer. "Analysis of human vessels, crude construction, Admiral, heavy armor plating, but limited weapons arrays. They appear to favor projectile weapons over energy systems. Tactically insignificant." "Destroy them," Vextar ordered, "on the bridge of the UC's Indomitable." Admiral Chen watched the Scarith fleet break formation and advance. Her tactical display showed the overwhelming odds: 43 enemy vessels against her 17 ships. By any reasonable analysis, this battle was already lost. But humans had never been particularly reasonable. "Signal the fleet," Chen ordered. "Execute pattern Delta Barn. All vessels, weapons free." The human ships suddenly scattered in seemingly random directions, moving with an erratic flight pattern that confused the Scarith targeting systems. Instead of forming traditional battle lines, they darted between asteroids and used the system's debris field for cover. Vextar watched in puzzlement as the human vessels seemed to flee in panic. "Pursue and destroy. Show these primitives the price of challenging us." His fleet moved to follow, but the humans had vanished into the asteroid field. Scarith ships spread out to hunt them down, confident in their superior numbers and firepower. Thus, when the humans revealed their first surprise, the UCS Indomitable emerged from behind a massive asteroid, not fleeing but charging directly at the Scarith flagship. Its crude projectile weapons opened fire, but instead of energy beams or plasma bolts, it launched clouds of small metal projectiles at incredible velocity. The Scarith Point defense systems, designed to intercept energy weapons and missiles, were overwhelmed by thousands of tungsten slugs moving at significant fractions of light speed. The rounds punched through armor plating and into vital systems. "Impossible," Vextar hissed as damage reports flooded in. "How can primitive weapons penetrate our shields?" His tactical officer's voice was shrill with panic. "Their projectiles have no energy signature. Our shields are designed to deflect energy weapons, not solid matter at these velocities." Across the battlefield, human ships emerged from hiding spots to deliver devastating hit-and-run attacks. They didn't try to match the Scarith vessels in a straight fight. Instead, they used their superior maneuverability to attack weak points, then disappeared back into cover before return fire could be effective. The UCS Retribution, commanded by Captain Marcus Torres, demonstrated another human innovation. His ship deployed a cloud of reflective chaff that scattered Scarith energy weapons harmlessly, then closed to point-blank range and fired magnetic mines that attached to enemy hulls before detonating. Admiral Torres reported over the communication. Channel Scarith vessel Bone Ripper is disabled. Moving to engage Death's Claw. Chen smiled grimly. The humans had studied every available report on Scarith tactics and technology. While the Council species had superior individual ships, they had grown complacent, relying on established patterns of warfare. Humans, forged in the crucible of their Deathworld, had learned to improvise, adapt, and overcome on Cathara Prime. Captain Lyros and his staff watched the battle unfold with amazement. The tactical display showed human ships dancing between their much larger opponents, striking at weak points and vanishing before effective counterattacks could be mounted. "How are they doing this?" Nera whispered, her silver skin bright with excitement. "They're not fighting like civilized species," Lyros replied, understanding dawning in his voice. "They're fighting like predators." Indeed, the human tactical doctrine was unlike anything in galactic military databases. Where other species fought with honor and established rules of engagement, humans fought to win by any means necessary. They used the environment as a weapon, turning asteroids into cover and debris fields into mazes. They coordinated their attacks with precision timing, striking multiple targets simultaneously to overwhelm enemy responses. Admiral Vextar found his superior force being picked apart by what he had dismissed as primitives. His ships were faster individually, but the humans moved as a pack, supporting each other and covering retreats with devastating crossfire. All vessels formed defensive perimeter around the flagship, he ordered, but the humans had anticipated this response. As the Scarith fleet pulled back into a tight formation, the UC's Indomitable and her escorts emerged from the outer system, having completed a wide flanking maneuver. They struck the Scarith rear guard while the main human force pressed their attack from the front. The battle turned into a nightmare for the Scarith. Caught between two forces of determined humans, their superior numbers became a liability as damaged ships, blocked fields of fire and created confusion in their ranks. Captain Torres's voice crackled over the communication channel. "Admiral, this is Retribution. We've taken heavy damage, but we're still in the fight. The Scarith are breaking formation." Chen watched as Scarith vessels began to retreat individually rather than maintain unit cohesion. Fear was a weapon humans understood well, and they had planted it deep in the hearts of their enemies. "All vessels, pressed the attack," Chen ordered. "Don't let them regroup." The final phase of the battle was swift and decisive. The remaining Scarith ships fled the system in disorder, leaving behind their damaged vessels and their reputation for invincibility. Admiral Vextar's flagship was among the last to retreat, its hull scarred by human weapons and its admiral's pride shattered. As the last enemy vessels jumped to hyperspace, a strange silence fell over the Cathara system. On the human ships, damage control teams worked to repair battle damage while medical personnel treated the wounded. They had taken casualties, 3 ships destroyed, and many more damaged. But they had achieved the impossible. Admiral Chen opened a channel to the Elvani Command Center. Captain Lyros appeared on the screen, his forearms trembling with emotion and his silver skin reflecting colors of gratitude. "Admiral Chen," he said formally, "the Elvani people owe you a debt that can never be repaid. You saved our entire civilization." Expression was tired but satisfied. "Captain, We did what anyone should do when innocent people are threatened. The fact that we were the only ones willing to do it says more about the rest of the galaxy than it does about us. The Galactic Council will want to know how 17 ships defeated 43, Lyros said. They will study this battle for decades. Let them study, Chen replied. Maybe they'll learn something about courage. Across the galaxy, the news of the Battle of Cathara spread like wildfire. The humans, the outcasts from the Deathworld, the species deemed too violent for civilized society, had accomplished what the entire Galactic Council had refused to even attempt. In the crystal towers of the vegan collective, emergency sessions debated the implications. The Altarian Republic recalled their ambassador to reconsider their policies. The Kelthari Federation quietly began reaching out through intermediaries to establish contact with human colonies. Chancellor Zexif stood in his private chambers, watching news reports of human ships limping home after their victory. His tentacles drooped with something that might have been shame. They knew they were outnumbered, he said to his aide. They knew they would probably die. But they came anyway, sir, his aide asked. We call them primitives, barbarians, deathworlders. But when innocence needed help, who answered the call? Not us, not the civilized galaxy, the humans did. On Kithara Prime, the Elvani began the long process of rebuilding and recovery. But they also began something else, reaching out to establish formal diplomatic relations with the human colonies. If the Council wouldn't protect them, they would find allies who would. Admiral Chen stood on the observation deck of the UCS, indomitable as it prepared to depart for home. The Elvani had offered them anything they wanted as payment: technology, resources, even colonies. Chen had refused it all. Why? Captain Lyros had asked during their final meeting. Because, Chen had replied, that's not why we came. As the human fleet prepared to jump back to hyperspace, a message appeared on communication channels throughout the galaxy. It was simple, broadcast in dozens of languages, and signed by the Human Colonial Defense Force to any species threatened by those who would do you harm. You are not alone. Send the signal, we will come. The Galactic Council had expected the Elvani to face extinction alone. They had calculated the political costs and found them too high. They had chosen safety over honor, self-preservation over duty. But when the signal went out into the void, it wasn't the Council that answered. It was the Deathworlders, the humans who had learned on their hostile world that sometimes you fight not because you can win, but because it's the right thing to do. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again, and perhaps more importantly, it would never look at itself the same way either. In the depths of space, the human ships jumped to hyperspace, carrying their wounded home and their honor intact. Behind them, they left a system full of grateful Elvani and a galaxy forced to confront uncomfortable truths about courage, loyalty, and what it really meant to be civilized. The signal had gone out. The Deathworlders had come, and the universe had learned that sometimes the most civilized thing you can do is fight for those who cannot fight for themselves.